Hello and welcome. Tonight, the People's Democratic Party drops Iyorchia Ayu as its national chairman, replaces him with the Deputy National Chairman, North, Umar Damagum, in acting capacity. Labour Party leadership vows its readiness to work towards deepening the nation's democracy, says its National Assembly members-elect will not defect to other parties. Nasarawa State joins League of Oil Producing States in the country as the president formally flags off drilling of crude oil in the state.
And on business news tonight, the Africa Development Bank says Nigeria can build a climate-resilient economy by adopting climate-smart agricultural practices.
On sports news tonight, Guinea beat Nigeria 2-0 in Rabat, Morocco to deny the Olympic Eagles a spot at the 2023 Under-23 AFCON that will serve as qualifier for the 2024 Olympic Games.
And from Abuja, the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress suspend for 2 weeks the industrial action earlier planned to commence tomorrow over the scarcity of Naira notes.
And in international news from London, police have seized guns from the home of Audrey Hale, who killed 6 people, including 3 children, before being shot dead at a primary school in Nashville.
It appears each day brings with it a new twist in the leadership tussle within the People's Democratic Party. Today, the party finally named its Deputy National Chairman, North, Mr. Umar Damagum, as the National Chairman in acting capacity. He's replacing Senator Iyorchia Ayu, whom the court has restrained from acting as the National Chairman of the party. The National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Mr. Debo Ologunagba, announced this to journalists after a meeting of the party's National Working Committee in Abuja. Meanwhile, some members of the PDP from Mr. Ayu's ward have disclaimed his suspension, saying it did not follow the right channel. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, has more.
We have Sawa and Telumu.
These are executive committee members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, from Igoro Council Ward in Boko local government area of Benue State, the same ward as Senator Iyorchia Ayu. They are in the National Secretariat of the party to brief journalists on the alleged suspension of Senator Ayu from the ward.
The executive committee members have stated clearly that they have no knowledge about the letter and have not authorized anybody whatsoever to generate such mischievous letter on behalf of the executive committee. The purported signatures on the letter were forged, and no member of PDP Executive Committee of Igoro Council Ward have signed that letter, nor caused to be signed on his or her behalf.
Moments after, some members of the National Working Committee of the PDP walk into the same hall. They have been holding an emergency meeting behind closed doors and have reached certain key decisions.
After a careful consideration of the court order and in line with Section 45, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the PDP as amended in 2017, the NWC resolved that the Deputy National Chairman North, His Excellency Ambassador Umar Ilia Damagum, assumes the national chairmanship of our party in acting capacity, with effect from today, Tuesday, 28 March 2023.
I will be here with you in an acting capacity pending the determination of what is to come soonest from the courts.
Mr. Iyorchia Ayu was suspended a week after the general election for alleged anti-party activities, including failure to pay his annual subscription fees and failure to vote during the election, following which a Benue State High Court in Makurdi ordered him to stop acting as national chairman. However, the PDP National Working Committee calls for calm among the leaders and members of the party. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Elsewhere, still basking in the euphoria of its performance in the just concluded general elections, the Labour Party is vowing to make a difference in order to deepen the nation's democracy. This is coming from the national chairman of the party, Mr. Julius Abure, who believes that none of the newly elected members of the National Assembly under the party will defect. Mr. Abure was speaking in Abuja after meeting with National Assembly-elect members of the party, whom he described as people of integrity.
One after the other, the newly elected National Assembly members on the platform of the Labour Party arrive at Abuja for a meeting with the leadership of the party. The meeting is held behind closed doors for at least 3 hours. The chairman of the party briefs on the issues discussed during the meeting.
We must put on record here that all those who were elected on the platform of the party, either to the House of Rep or in the Senate, are well responsible and dedicated to the party.
Some National Assembly members-elect restate their commitment to the party.
I believe that Labour Party will have a distinct character. Those of us who were elected on this platform, we know the enormous responsibilities we'll carry on behalf of the Nigerian people.
I'm speaking for other Labour Party members. I know for certain I'm not defecting anywhere. I see Labour as a platform that we have started to build. We haven't gotten it to where we want it to go, but we're just starting. So we can use Labour to show that leadership can be different. Parties can be different. Where there's equity, people are egalitarian, those sorts of things. So I'm definitely not. And from the meetings we've been having, I think the other Labour Party people too, especially the National Assembly members, they are the ones I've been interacting with the most, are not defecting either.
To whom much is given, much is expected. For us in Labour Party, we are where we are today because of the people. I don't think we will shift. We will remain where we are. We will remain in Labour Party. Today, we remain Labour, and Labour shall we remain.
The meeting, which is attended by the leader of the party, Mr. Peter Obi, is aimed at fine-tuning the aspirations of the party ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly.
In other political stories, the Senate Chief Whip, Senator Orji Kalu, is asking the President to restore the Board of Trustees of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in order to address internal wranglings that has threatened to rip the party apart. Senator Orji made the request when he met with the President today in his office, where he apprised President Muhammadu Buhari of his desire to be President of the Senate if it is zoned to the southeast. He, however, noted if the president-elect decides he should not run for the office, he will respect his opinion.
I'm a party man, like a party man, and I will respect his view. If he said I will not go, I will drop my ambition. After all, I didn't make myself chief whip. To me, it's my turn. Yes, I said so. But turn can be spoiled by the bigger boys. You see, now the leagues are different. You know, you have the Premier League, you have the other small league. So the people in the big league can stop me, even when it's my turn. But I think that I will be a solution to what they're looking for. I suggested to the president, I say, we cannot allow you to rest. I'm going to be consulting the party. The party should bring back our board of trustees or something that looks like it, so that Mr. President will be chairman of the board of trustees of the party, so that every 4 or 5 months he will come and see how the party is doing. We cannot just leave the party empty-handed. It was done on the young days of ANC, so that the president will still be part of the conscience of the party, so that we will have somebody to run to when we have problems in the party, because it's just God that saves our party. That is the truth. God saves our party because The quarrel inside the party is so much. The rancor is so much. It's just God that saved this party.
Meanwhile, the list of senators-elect declaring to contest for the seat of the President of the Senate in the 10th Assembly is expanding as Senator Sani Musa of the APC representing Niger East has announced his intention to join the race. Speaking to journalists at the National Assembly today, Senator Musa says the North Central deserves the position in the Senate leadership. He's also asking the APC to address the issue of religious balancing in the zoning of seats for principal officers of the National Assembly.
I intend to declare my intention when I see the zoning, but for now, my intent is to go for the presidency of the Senate. But in any case, we want a country where everyone will feel at home and united. And I strongly believe that the zoning policy that the party will come out with will address all the issues, especially the issues that came after the Muslim ticket. I'm sure it will be addressed. And once that is done, I believe that we members of the National Assembly we will queue in and decide then to make a formal declaration.
Let's head to the courts now, where Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has affirmed Victor Oye as the legitimate national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, delivering judgment in the suit brought before it by APGA and one of its leaders, Mr. Chekwas Okorie. Justice Omotosho held that by the judgment of the Court of Appeal, Kano Division, and later Supreme Court, it is clear that there is no evidence that the judgment upholding Mr. Oye as APGA chairman has been set aside. The court held that the Supreme Court only made correction in the typographical error made when Mr. Edozie Njoku's name was submitted with that of Oye, but upheld the decision of the lower court, which maintained that Oye was the validly elected candidate. APGA, Chekwas Okorie, and two others had approached the court to recognize them as the authentic faction of the party, having been produced by the Njoku-led National Working Committee. The judge, in dismissing the suit by Chekwas Okorie, the presidential candidate of the Njoku-led faction, said they lacked the legal rights to institute the case, having not participated in the exercise organized by the authentic party faction. Justice Omotosho further slammed a cost of 200,000 naira against the Njoku-led faction. The trial judge also held that Edozie Njoku tried to deceive the general public by misinterpreting the decision of the Apex Court and the Appellate Court in Kano. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, says plans are on course to ensure a peaceful and formal transfer of power to the President-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, on May the 29th. He maintains that despite litigations arising from the presidential elections, President Muhammadu Buhari will not spend one more day as president after the expiration of his tenure. Mr. Mustafa stated this during the meeting of the Presidential Transition Committee in the nation's capital.
As far as the Presidential Transition Council is concerned, and that's the essence of our setting up the various committees. The Inauguration Committee, which has responsibility for the processes of the inauguration, the swearing in, the parades, the activities preceding the formal handover of power. The Security Facilities and Intelligence Committee has the responsibility to ensure that nothing happens to truncate the process. So I can give you every form of assurance that Nigerians are very law-abiding people. Whoever has lost an election, we have provided for avenues for those people to ventilate whatever legal inquiry they want to make. But the process will continue unabated, and I can assure you that we are putting everything in place to ensure that the formal processes of handover takes place, and we do not create any political or constitutional crisis. 29th of May 2023 is D-Day, and that, by the grace of God, will come to pass.
In part two, after the break, the Senate extends the implementation of the capital component of the 2022 federal budget from March 31st to June the 30th, 2023. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If this has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. People's Democratic Party drops Yocha Ayu as its national chairman, replaces him with the deputy national chairman of North, Umar Damagum, in acting capacity. Labour Party leadership vows its readiness to work towards deepening the nation's democracy, says its National Assembly members-elect will not defect to other parties. Nasarawa State joins League of Oil-Producing States in the country as the president formally flags off drilling of crude oil in the state. And police seized guns from the home of Audrey Hale, who killed 6 people, including 3 children, before being shot dead at a primary school in Nashville, USA. Nasarawa State has joined the group of oil-producing states in the country after the president today flagged off the drilling of crude oil in the state, which is in the middle Benue throat. President Muhammadu Buhari, who joined the sworn-in ceremony virtually, said the discovery of hydrocarbon in commercial quantity in Nasarawa is the result of the exploration of oil in the frontier basins of the country by the NNPC Limited. The location is tagged Ebenyi well in Obi local government area.
NMDPRA.
President Muhammadu Buhari virtually joins the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, the Governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, stakeholders from Nasarawa State, as well as other officials of the NNPCL in Obi local government area of Nasarawa State.
Gas infrastructure that is ongoing in the country today, things like the AKK, I could go on and on.
The purpose for the gathering is the presidential flag-off of the spud of Ebenyi well, the first oil well in the middle Benue Trough, as the NNPCL continues to execute the mandate of President Muhammadu Buhari to explore the frontier basins of the country.
Today's occasion marks the official commencement of exploration drilling activities in the middle Benue Trough. This is consistent with the commercial discoveries of hydrocarbons in the Kolmani area of Upper Benue Trough. I am pleased to note that activities are currently ongoing to develop the Kolmani petroleum discoveries to commercial production to add to the nation's considerable hydrocarbon assets.
Mr. Mele Kyari, while restating the resolve of the NNPCL to explore oil in other frontier basins of the country, is optimistic that the commencement of the oil drilling in Nasarawa State will add to the hydrocarbon reserves of the country.
The positive outcome of this campaign will contribute to national aspiration of increasing our hydrocarbon reserves from 37 billion barrels to 50 billion barrels in the short to the medium term, and increase our crude oil production to the target of 3 million barrels per day.
In his remarks, Governor Abdullahi Sule calls on the host communities to take ownership, just as he appeals to President Muhammadu Buhari and the NNPCL to see the possibility of having an integrated field development for the Ebenyi well.
I would like to appeal, Mr. President, that the NNPC should expedite the development of this field, while congratulating the NNPC once more on the concept of the integrated field development that was just carried out in Gombe.
Governor Sule, the GCEO, Mele Kyari, and other stakeholders officially flag off the commencement of drilling activities on behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari. It is a historic and joyous moment for the people who anticipate that this gesture will enhance the development of the state and bring prosperity.
Back to the National Assembly, the Senate has extended the implementation of the capital component of the 2022 budget from March 31st to June 30th, 2023. The extension, according to the upper chamber, will enable the federal government implement key projects in the capital component of the 2022 budget and allow for the completion of ongoing projects critical to the current administration. Our correspondent Linda Kibe has more.
It's a new legislative week in the National Assembly, and federal lawmakers in the Senate have economic bills before them for consideration and passage. President Buhari had requested the National Assembly to extend the period for implementation of the capital component of the 2022 Appropriation Act from March to June 30th, 2023. According to the Senate Majority Leader, the extension is to enable the executive implement key projects in the capital component of the 2022 budget and allow for the completion of ongoing projects critical to the current administration.
You will recall that the National Assembly extended the implementation of the 2022 Appropriation Act from 31st December 2022 to 31st March 2023. This was to allow full implementation of the budget, especially in the light of the 2022 supplementary budget approved in December 2022. The extension had allowed the MDAs to utilize a large proportion of funds related to them. However, significant amounts of funds remain with the MDAs and they will require further extension to be fully expended.
The Senate suspends its standing rules to enable it to reach the bill for the first, second, and third time. With this extension, the 2022 appropriation bill is to run concurrently with the 2023 budget. The upper chamber also considers a bill to repeal the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation NDIC Act 2006 and reenact the NDIC Act 2023.
If we look at the NDIC Act,
speaking to Channels Television after the passage of the bill, the chairman of the Committee on Banking says the proposed legislation is intended to ensure appropriate board oversight over the management of the NDIC.
The NDIC law has been obsolete, so we find it extremely difficult to be able to push them to achieve their own goal. So we have made only very few amendments to the Act. About 5 clauses we've been able to amend. All those clauses is just to assist the NDIC achieve their goal and try as much as possible to protect the customers of our banks.
The chairman of the Committee on Banking further says there was consensus among key stakeholders regarding the necessity of the bill, and if assented to, the NDIC Act 2023 is expected to strengthen the nation's deposit insurance system. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
We head now to our Abuja studios for more stories. Mark, it's over to you.
Thank you, Millicent. It looks like we're starting with what may be described as a mark of good faith as the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria have suspended their planned industrial action, which was to commence tomorrow over the scarcity of the new Naira notes. Rising from its National Executive Council meeting today, the NLC president told journalists in Abuja that they would resume the planned action if the Naira notes become unavailable to Nigerians by the end of the 2 weeks.
With reports coming from all the states of the Federation and local governments on the level of compliance of banks. And we are happy to tell you that, yes, there is compliance by CBN. But the NLC, after its next meeting, doubted the sustainability of that compliance. And we don't want to be calling you back after 2 days for another action. And we felt that we have to monitor this compliance for the next 2 weeks to see whether it is sustainable. Because they have rushed to move money to commercial banks. And some of those commercial banks are getting empty again. queues are returning in some of them. So it will be very naive for the Congress to hurriedly call off the action. Whereas we are not shutting down tomorrow, we want to loosen up for another 2 weeks with committees set up at the national level and in all the states of the Federation to coordinate the level of compliance.
Well, before the NLC announced the suspension of their planned strike, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, had expressed optimism that the union's action will be halted. The minister explained that at a meeting with the union on Monday, the NLC affirmed that there had been a reprieve on the cash crunch situation, particularly after the Apex Bank weighed in over the weekend. Dr. Ngige was speaking at the 68th Ministerial Weekly Briefing in Abuja. Our State House correspondent Gloria Omezioke reports.
The Minister of Labour and Employment arrives at the State House hours before a planned picketing of the branches of the Central Bank of Nigeria across the Federation by the Nigeria Labour Congress to give updates on the recent happenings at the 68th Ministerial Weekly Briefing. The leadership of the NLC had earlier given the federal government a 7-day ultimatum to end the cash scarcity or face a nationwide protest by Wednesday, March 29.
We told the CBN what to do, and they did exactly what we asked them to do. Engage them, and they did. The NLC affirmed that there is an improvement in the cash flow. They praised the CBN at our last meeting yesterday and told them to improve. I'm optimistic they will not strike because we have apprehended, like I told you.
The minister responds to questions about the ministry's slow response to crisis situations.
We have conciliated about 4,000 labor disputes. More than, I think, 4,300 since I came to that ministry. And you don't hear about them. We have what we call rapid response, especially in oil and gas. Rapid response, because we know the implication.
He also speaks on palliatives after fuel subsidy is halted by June.
It's left for the incoming government to take it or leave it and address the issue as as best as they deem fit. But definitely, like I told you, we're already handling some of the envisaged challenges. We are handling the issue of pay rise. I say all MDAs are doing that. Even for federal civil servants.
The minister affirms that 19 job centers offering various services have been established across the 6 geopolitical zones as part of the government's efforts to strengthen production self-sufficiency and skill development. But perhaps the real concern lies in private sector involvement, how to upscale unemployment rate since it's quadrupled in 2015 and 2020 recession. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the African Development Bank says Nigeria can build a climate-resilient economy by adopting climate-smart agricultural practices. That's some business news. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Ahead of the planned removal of subsidy on petrol, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSN, is proposing pegging the price per litre at between 360 naira and 400 naira. President of the association, Festus Osifo, stated this on the sidelines of the association's National Executive Council meeting held in Abuja. He urged the incoming administration to ensure palliatives are made available to Nigerians to cushion the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy, as well as address the impact of the currency swap on citizens.
At domestic refining, and we also look at the issues bordering on subsidy. If we address this, Nigerians and the Nigerian government will earn more money from the crude oil sales. And that money will go into CBN. It will shore up our reserves and it will support lots of other imports and the pressure in USD. So when this happens, our Naira we appreciate. We are also encouraging government. If you remove subsidy today, where are you going to put the money? If, for example, removing subsidy can, number one, solve ASO's problem permanently, so that ASO will never go on strike again. If we can also use it in addressing healthcare, that is another good one. But again, because of the trust deficit, over the years, it is always a problem. That is why Labour and government must sit down to define the processes, to define the palliative that must be put in place for the Nigerian masses, so that we will feel this impact when it's finally done.
Well, we're back to the courts now, and this time a federal high court sitting in Lagos has fixed April the 20th this year to rule on an application filed by Kogi State seeking to vacate an interim order of the court freezing 14 properties linked to the state governor. Justice Nicholas Oweibo fixed the date after taking submissions from the Kogi State Government Council, Senior Advocate of Nigeria Abdul Wahab Mohammed, and counsel to the EFCC, Senior Advocate of Nigeria Rotimi Oyedepo. The court granted the interim forfeiture order on February the 22nd, following an ex parte motion to confiscate 14 properties and firms in Lagos, Abuja, and the United Arab Emirates, as well as 400 million naira recovered from one Aminu Falala. When the matter came up today, the counsel to Kogi State told the court they had an application dated March the 9th this year seeking to vacate the order of the court made on February the 22nd. According to him, the order of the Kogi State High Court restraining the EFCC from taking any step against the state government is still subsisting, adding that in a federation, the EFCC lacks the power to dictate to a state how it spends money. But the counsel to the EFCC argued that the applicant had brought nothing before the court to convince the court to vacate the order and asked the court to dismiss the application. After listening to both parties, Justice Oweibo fixed April the 20th this year for his ruling. Meanwhile, a Lagos-based lawyer, Tokwe Alabi, has approached the Federal High Court in Lagos for leave to initiate contempt proceedings against the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele for alleged disobedience of the Supreme Court orders on its Naira redesign policy. Mr. Alabi made the application via a March the 27th ex parte motion in a suit which lists Mr. Emefiele as the sole respondent. He described the Naira swap as a cash confiscation policy which has affected the day-to-day running of his office as his staff could not make it to work daily owing to the non-availability of cash. Mr. Alabi added that the CBN action has also affected his job as a legal practitioner as he could not have access to daily physical cash to carry out his job and meet little daily expenses. No date has been fixed for the hearing of the case. And that's all from here in Abuja. It's back now to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Mark. We continue here in Lagos, where a 5-story building at the popular Balogun Market, Lagos Island, housing about 350 shops, was today gutted by fire, leading to the destruction of properties worth millions of naira. According to the National Emergency Management Agency, one body was recovered from the scene of the disaster, while some other people sustained injuries. The fire, which started early this morning from the topmost floor of the building, affected the 5th and 4th floors. The later spread to a nearby 3-story building with 230 shops, all of which were said to have burnt down. Elsewhere, it was all celebration in the Calabari area of River State today as the state government commissioned the first phase of the landmark Trans-Calabari Road, which had been on the development plan of the state for decades. It was awarded by Governor Nyesom Wike in June 2021 in fulfillment of his electioneering promise to the people of the area. Speaking at the commissioning ceremony, which was performed by the governor of Oyo State, Governor Wike criticized those who attempted to stall the completion of the project by kidnapping workers on site.
The landmark Trans-Calabari Road, a long-time dream of the ancient Calabari tribe of Rivers State, is set for inauguration after 2 years of intensive construction work. Calabari ethnic group comprises 3 local government areas of Akukutoro, Asaritoro, and Degema, which is the venue of this event. Governor Nyesom Wike leads a list of top government officials to witness the ceremony, including his special guest, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, Rivers State Deputy Governor Dr. Palebo Hari, who is an indigene of the town, Rivers State Governor-elect and his deputy, among others, and the best of the Calabari culture are put on display. This first phase of the 13-kilometer road connects 6 island communities to the mainland, as explained by the Commissioner for Works, who is also a native of the town.
The bell mouth we have here is going to be chainage 0+00. And so from here, we have a bridge, and the length of the bridge is 262 meters in length. Now we have, from this bank, we have 4 spans. And then from the Krakama Bank, we have 4 spans, and then in the middle, we have 3 spans.
The special guest, Governor Makinde, who incidentally had his National Youth Service in River State and got married from the area, appreciates Governor Wike for the feat.
Not only can you come from Port Harcourt to Buguma by road, to Abonima, and now you can go further into the Calabari Kingdom. I want to say, without mincing words, that you have done well for Rivers State.
For Governor Nyesom Wike, but for the security challenges, the project could have been completed earlier. He restates the commitment of the incoming administration to complete other projects.
People did all kinds of things. They kidnapped the workers of Lubrix for 5 months. I told them, if you like kidnap everybody, this work must be completed. I said, no amount of intimidation, no amount of anything you will do, this job must be completed.
The road is then inaugurated.
I do it in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
After the inauguration, the entourage drove to the end of the road, where the second phase is expected to begin soon. And with this development, socioeconomic activities in the area will receive a major boost.
Meanwhile, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, says it has developed a new empowerment scheme for Niger Delta youths, which focuses on entrepreneurship. To this end, the interventionist agency said it will work with the Chambers of Commerce in the Niger Delta to serve as a pool from where aspiring young entrepreneurs of the region will be empowered. The NDDC Managing Director made this known at a youth interactive forum in Port Harcourt. It's a meeting between the management of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, and youth leaders from the region as they facilitate a sustainable empowerment initiative. At this interactive session in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, the managing director of the NDDC explains the new policy thrust of the Commission's youth empowerment programs.
Youth entrepreneurship is the only way we think if you're empowered as an entrepreneur, it is possible that you can also employ some other persons, because government alone cannot employ everybody. Oil companies alone cannot employ everybody.
Taking turns, the youth leaders, while commending the Commission for engaging them, bear their minds on what kind of programs the agency should promote for the youth, among other issues.
The water high sensor is very, very important. It is part of the hope we saw in you. Are they not true? It will energize our will and our strength and audacity to start with this board.
With all the ideas you have presented to us, the only way it will be achievable is for them to be institutionalized. It's for them to have a legal backing. So that tomorrow, when you are not here, we should be able to make references to them.
In his response to the issues raised, the NDDC boss highlights underwater hyacinth contract, assuring them that it will now take a new form.
The question is that must it be water hyacinth? Can't it be something else? So we actually thought of the program called Public and Community Infrastructure Renovation Program. We had the same award of contract that we give it to you as water hyacinth. That same award of contract might be given to you to go and renovate your community town hall or a school building or something. It is the same contract.
The Niger Delta youths, just like other young Nigerians, can't wait to see the unveiling and sustenance of the programs that is expected to address issues of unemployment and youth restiveness. Time for business news now. Here's Laddie Williams.
Thanks, Millicent. In business news, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, is expressing confidence in the nation's digital space over its contribution to the nation's GDP. Speaking at a meeting organized in collaboration with the World Bank, Mr. Pantami says that although the subsector continues to experience attacks, there is need to further protect it to ensure that it contributes to the nation's economy in 2023 and beyond.
When it comes to ICT contribution to GDP, in 2020 first quarter, ICT sector alone without the digital services, only the ICT sector contributed 14.07 to our GDP. It was unprecedented at that time. In the second quarter of 2021, ICT sector contributed 17.97% also to our GDP. In the second quarter of 2022, last year, ICT sector contributed 18.44% to our GDP, which is another new unprecedented record. In Nigeria, we have developed many national policies and strategies in order to build our to build our digital economy and consolidate our achievements so far on one hand, and also to ensure that our cyberspace is secured on the other.
And to some company news now. A Trophy Extra Special Stout from the Stables of International Breweries PLC has launched a new campaign tagged Reclaim Your DNA. The Reclaim Your DNA campaign is focused on recovering artifacts that were forcefully taken from Nigeria many years ago. Through the campaign, Trophy Extra Special Stout hopes to connect Nigerians to their past and help them own their future. The campaign, which is categorized into phases, kicks off with the heist. It is more like a digital reclaim of artifacts. Nigerians can watch the heist video on Trophy Extra Special Stout's YouTube and social media spaces. And the Africa Development Bank says Nigeria can build a climate-resilient economy by adopting climate-smart agricultural practices. The bank said this in a country-focused report for Nigeria supporting climate resilience and a just energy transition. The bank listed some practices to include low-cost but effective technologies such as water harvesting, small-scale irrigation techniques, land and water conservation, and management strategies. The report also highlights that the country-level climate change effects remain a major source of policy concern, given Nigeria's dependence on traditional agriculture and fossil fuel energy sources. And profit-taking continues in the equities market, closing in negative territory for the second trading day of the week. And John McQuarrie tells us more.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. That's right, the bear is still in charge. But today's fall is not as deep as that of Monday. We see the all-share index in the red today, 0.47%. Well, it would have been a miracle if we had seen it in the green, going from more than 2% yesterday. And of course, the market cap is still at 29 trillion, but there it has lost 2 that we had yesterday now to 1. Now, let's look at the sectors and know those who drove this. We know that Boa Foods did really well today and gained, so we're not surprised. Boa Food, PZ, they drove the consumers' counter to the green, more 1.5%. Congratulations to them. Banking, the most liquid, is also back, but the full girls are still not recovered. Since investors are still doing some things on them, probably because of the earnings season is around the corner. That's for banking, and oil and gas undecided, even though it's green. The activity chart captures a bit of this. Yesterday, the volume was in the red. Today, the value is in the red. It's still a bearish market, and we're still hoping that investors will come back to the market. Elections are over. Let's do this in the market. That's the stock market report. John Mekwa is back to you.
And from the local business news, back to Millicent with the rest of News at 10.
You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Laddie. And Nashville police today released body cam footage from Monday's school shooting, which left 6 people dead, including 3 9-year-old children, showing the moment 2 police officers took out trans shooter Audrey Hale. Hale opened fire on the Covenant School, a small church-run private elementary school on the outskirts of the city, shortly before 10:13 a.m. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Police have seized guns from the home of Audrey Hale, who killed 6 people, including 3 children, before being shot dead at a primary school in Nashville. New images have been released which reveal the weapons reportedly used by the suspect, as well as damage sustained during the shooting, including bullet holes in nearby cars. In CCTV footage released by police, Hale is seen entering the building by shooting through its doors. Hale is then shown wandering around the school premises holding an automatic rifle. It is thought Hale, a former student at the school, was motivated by resentment.
Holding hands.
Here footage of children fleeing the building while holding hands. And the tearful hugs as parents greet their children from the school bus.
Aren't you guys tired of covering this?
And here an impassioned plea from a survivor of the shooting that more needs to be done.
How is this still happening? How are our children still dying, and why are we failing them? Gun violence is the #1 killer of children and teens. It has overtaken cars. Assault weapons are contributing to the border crisis and fentanyl. We are arming cartels with our guns and our loose gun laws, and these shootings and these mass shootings will continue to happen until our lawmakers step up and pass gun safety legislation.
The German Defense Ministry says the first shipment of Leopard 2 tanks has been sent to Ukraine. It comes as Ukraine's Defense Minister, Oleksiy Reznikov, released footage of British Challenger 2 main battle tanks that had recently arrived in the country.
Marvelous when Secretary of Defense of the United Kingdom. It's a very good stuff. Thank you very much from Ukraine to the United Kingdom.
After thanking the UK's Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, Reznikov is seen driving one of the tanks. Britain pledged in January to send 14 of the tanks ahead of an expected Kyiv counteroffensive to further repel a Russian full-scale invasion, now in its 14th month. Protesters have blocked the Rennes ring road to protest against French President Emmanuel Macron's pension reforms on another day of countrywide demonstrations and strikes. At least one car was burnt, though an eyewitness said it had been brought from a scrapyard and did not belong to a motorist. The stunt caused traffic jams spanning several kilometres, which lasted around 2 hours until protesters left to join protests planned in the city centre. Millions of people have been demonstrating largely peacefully and joining strike action in France since mid-January to vent their opposition to Emmanuel Macron's plans to make most of them work an extra 2 years until they're 64. Prince Harry has unexpectedly arrived for the second day of his privacy trial against the Daily Mail publisher Associated Newspapers. Lawyers have submitted 14 separate claims about articles published by the paper on behalf of Prince Harry, alleging that information about his personal life was obtained unlawfully. Prince Harry, Elton John and several other celebrities have brought privacy cases against the publisher. US Vice President Kamala Harris has visited a music studio in Accra during a visit to Ghana, where she was joined by actors Idris Elba and Cheryl Lee Ralph.
So this is song number 20. So we have Ide.
Harris highlighted the universal language involved in the creation of music from young African artists. She's in Accra at the start of a week-long three-nation African tour, the latest in a series of visits by senior US officials as Washington seeks to counter growing Chinese and Russian influence on the continent.
I think it's a great significant signal for a VP to come to Ghana, to come to Africa and be that interfacing, to show the rest of the world that actually it's a fantastic place to sort of look at in terms of partnership and investment.
And a football tournament specifically for grannies has kicked off in Limpopo province in South Africa. The tournament, nicknamed the Grannies Soccer World Cup, is the first of its kind, hosted by the team Vakhegula Vakhegula. The team was formed in 2007 to improve the health of local grannies, and it led to the creation of other granny teams across the country. Only women aged 55 or older are allowed to play. The four-day tournament saw 32 teams compete, including 9 from South Africa and 23 from abroad. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. It's quite refreshing to see grannies take to the field. But let's come back home. Nigeria's Olympic Eagles have failed to qualify for this year's Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations after losing 2-0 to Guinea in the second leg of their final qualifying fixture in Rabat, Morocco earlier today. This defeat means that the Olympic Eagles will miss the football event at the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, having also missed out of the Olympics in 2020. European Club Association Chairman Nasser Al-Khelaifi says discussions weren't easy with FIFA after both bodies renewed a memorandum of understanding in Budapest, Hungary earlier today. As part of agreement, FIFA's compensation paid to clubs that release players for the Men's World Cup will be increased by nearly 70% to 355 million for the 2026 and 2030 tournaments. Now, South America's football governing body has honored Argentina World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi with a statue, which will be placed in its museum next to those of legendary players like Pelé and Diego Maradona. Messi also received replicas of the World Cup and the Finalissima trophy, which Argentina won against Italy during the ceremony. An International Olympic Committee has issued recommendations for the gradual return to international competition for Russian and Belarusian athletes as neutrals, with President Thomas Bach saying their participation works despite the war in Ukraine. Mr. Bach says Russian and Belarusian athletes can only compete as neutrals with no flags or anthem and must have a proven drug testing record, while athletes will support the war or are contracted to their country's military or national security agency are excluded. And that's it on sports. I'm Jeffrey Uzong. Is back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The People's Democratic Party today dropped Senator Yocha Ayu as its national chairman and replaced him with the Deputy National Chairman North, Umar Damagum, in acting capacity. Labour Party leadership has vowed its readiness to work towards deepening the nation's democracy, just as it promised that its National Assembly members-elect will not defect to other parties. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.